You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
Oh, what to talk about with Toronto sports? None of it good news. So we start with the Toronto Raptors. Yeah. Keegan, let's not go Raptors. They're done. So they're actually in the weeds right now.
They might have a high draft pick. That's about as good as it gets in the city right now. Draft lottery. That's the great hope of Toronto.
Yeah, they're in the weeds. They're like, hey, no one's talking about us. We're good because everyone's talking Leafs and Blue Jays, and they're not talking about it for the right reasons. Okay, let's start with the positives. I like positive things.
Hey.
Daulton Varsho returns and on Tuesday night makes one of the greatest catches I've ever seen in baseball history.
That was cool, man. And Daulton Varsho afterwards, hearing him talk about it was great because he is the kind of serious, reserved little brother of the team. You know, him and George Springer are good buddies, and George is the one that's loud and dancing and breaking things, and Dalton's kind of the one trailing behind him, smiling, being like, no, mom's going to hear us type of deal. And he's such a great fit in that clubhouse, such a great fella. And to hear him talk about it, he said, what was his quote? I said a profanity word is what he said after the game, where, you know, John Schneider kind of danced around how much he swore by a little smoother. But Varsho said, as he was falling, I said a profanity word. And you saw that smirk on him as he got up. But you know what that is there, right, Dan? That is 2013 Wisconsin high school all-state safety, Daulton Varsho. Man, that's what you get when you play multiple sports, when you're a great athlete. He tracked that, didn't mind he took a bit of a hit from the invisible line on the turf there, but that was an all-time catch, man. He's had so many of the good ones where he's slamming into the wall, where he's diving, where he's going up the wall. This one was really the type of thing that you do in the backyard when you're 7 years old. You're like, what if I fell and I tried to catch it behind my back type of thing? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Everything else sucked. But the catch, the catch was absolutely outstanding.
My mom, Sandra O'Toole, broke it down perfectly, and you talked about Varsho being reserved. She said, I was watching him, and he was trying not to smile, but he couldn't keep it in. He couldn't keep it in, and he smiled. And I'm like, wow, she caught up on how Varsho carries himself. She caught on to that.
He's the quiet one, man. He did not want to show it because in his mind, I know he's thinking, okay, we're losing. This is my first game back. Blah, blah. Hey, some things are just too cool. There's a lot of ball games. There's not a lot of catches like that.
So Varsho returns. We talked about his potential return and how he was building towards that. And we had it all planned out. He was gonna jump on the speeding train and just the train would keep going. Instead, he's getting onto a train that is derailed, and there's no replacement train in sight.
This is ugly, man. 8 losses in the last 9 games, and they're not scoring. This is not a complicated problem, Dan. And I think a lot of people try to complicate this with what's their philosophy, their approach, their process, which is a word I want to bury myself with my hands. But they're just not scoring enough. The offense just isn't good enough right now, period. There's no grand philosophical reason. They don't need to have different meetings. They don't need to use different buzzwords. There's nothing like that needed. They just got to score more, period. That's all it is right now. The rotation will be good enough. The bullpen is at least not a topic of conversation. Dan, I compare the bullpen at this point to like a punter in football. If I'm not talking about it, probably good. Everything's fine. Their base running, their defense, both excellent. It's just this offense. There's nothing else going wrong with this team. It's the offense right now. They need to score. They need to hit for power. And as we sit here on the morning of April 30, which is a Wednesday, news to me, mid-season, Dan, it's a bit of a blur here.
Yeah.
But the Blue Jays have allowed the most home runs and hit the second fewest. You're not going to succeed, period. When you have that big of a gap between the home runs you're giving up and the home runs you are hitting. Even if you play perfect small ball and everyone hits 300, good luck. Man, it's all about power. It's all about offense right now. And until that changes, they're going to keep going in this direction. And the tough part, Dan, is that this needs to come from on the roster. Like, there's not a guy in AAA who's about to change the world for them. There's just not. And frankly, I don't know what else John Schneider's supposed to do with this lineup. Move George Springer back to leadoff? I don't know. That's old. Yep. What else are you supposed to do? There's not a guy hitting eighth right now who has a 350 average who you need to jap up, you know? I don't know what to do. Who are you going to jack up that lineup? I'm not sure. I don't know where it goes, and it needs to come from somebody on the roster. It's got to be Bo Bichette. It's got to be Anthony Santander. It's got to be Springer, Jimenez, and it hasn't been yet. This is really, really strange.
You mentioned the inability to score runs, and I know we shouldn't compare them to the Yankees because the Yankees have scored a lot of runs, but I will compare them. Through 29 games, the New York Yankees, through 29 games, have scored 76 more runs than the Toronto Blue Jays.
That's
the Blue Jays are tied for second lowest runs scored in the AL, and they're only 3 runs ahead of the Kansas City Royals, who are the lowest scoring team in the AL.
Yikes. And you know what, man? Hell, they should be compared to the Yankees. It's time to chase a division around here, not just the third wildcard spot. We've seen how that's gone 3 times over the last 5 years, 0-2, 0-2, 0-2. When you chase the division, you get a little breathing room. You can settle into a series, and it probably means you're a better team. But they should be compared to the Yankees, even though the Yankees are off to a wild start. They had another huge one yesterday on the 29th, those home runs against the Orioles, who, I mean, what's happening to the Orioles? Spend some money, come on. But the Blue Jays right now, that offense.
The Orioles are still paying Chris Davis, I think.
Oh, man. Man, he sure did have a good year way back when. All the power to him. Yeah. He's on my dream contract right now. Just flash it once.
Yeah. It's getting to the broadcasters, I think, too, because Dan Schulman always very upbeat, and he pointed out at one of the Yankees games in New York this past weekend, he said it was their first game in which it was comfortable outside. He said, this is our first outdoor game in which it is somewhat comfortable with regards to the temperature.
It's been a grind, man, those road games. And God bless the roof. Okay, I have spent much of my life thinking that Rogers Center is a little ugly, a little steel and concrete, and not quite a ballpark. With every passing day in my life now, I appreciate it more. Bless that roof. It saves me from 10 rain delays, rainouts every spring, every April and May. And yeah, those games in New York, because the road trip prior through New York Mets and Boston Red Sox, that was the one where we were setting records for the coldest first pitches. So it's been uncomfortable, but the Yankees look comfortable in it, so it's been a tough one.
You know what is strange about the Dome, and it makes me think back to when you're a kid and you can't wait to leave home, you can't wait to leave your city. You're like, this place will never hold me down. Then when you go back, you're like, you know what? Life was okay. And I say that because whenever you talk to people that come in from with a visiting team, or you see people breaking down stadiums, and you're like, okay, they're going to trash the Dome. But 7 times out of 10, they all say, you know what? I like this stadium. Maybe it's because we were born into it and we're kind of tired of it. That's why we have this attitude towards it, when maybe it's not so bad. I don't know. I'm looking at it through a different lens these days. Your thoughts on that?
A controlled environment, man, which is what you want.
Yes.
And the renovations have helped. Sure, it's helped a little bit. I would love it if there was a wall blown out and some glass or something to let the light in. Sometimes when the closest I feel, Dan, to the people in my family who came before me who were coal miners is when I leave that stadium after a game with the roof closed and I get that first hit of oxygen.
Yes.
I think, oh my God, there's a world up here again. I've climbed out of the mines. But when the roof is open, man, that's a great stadium. Mm-hmm. And with and another thing I will say in favor of Rogers Center, and I've really done a turn on this. 2 years ago, I would have been burying Rogers, but I've really mentally turned on it. It's the location. Because the more I travel around Major League Baseball, you see the odd stadium that's kind of downtown. Another example coming up might be somewhere like Seattle, where it's Yeah, it's downtown, but it's on the edge of downtown. I'm not exactly walking there from the hotel, but visiting writers, when they come in with other teams, they rave about it. Everyone loves Toronto because you can stay at the hotel right there and walk 5 minutes to the stadium and be part of the city. I think of other places I go when I'm in Tampa or Kansas City, when I'm renting a car and I'm driving out on the highway and sitting in a parking lot. That doesn't feel great to me. But the ability to get off at Union or however you get to the ballpark, you cycle there, you walk there, it is as good as any location in Major League Baseball. And whenever I talk to Paul Beeston about this, he says the same thing. Like, the biggest strength this organization has is this plot of land, which, if I'm remembering right, they got a pretty good deal on. But
yeah, they got it for $1.
Yeah, not bad. Maybe somebody probably wants to do that deal again. But
yeah,
it's an incredible location, a good enough stadium, but the roof, my God, it saves people's sanity. Because I feel so bad, Dan, when I'm on the road and games are getting rained out or delayed. Yeah, most of those people are just there from town, but at every Major League Baseball game, there's a couple thousand people who that's like their trip for the summer. Because that's how I grew up. You'd do a trip to Boston or Toronto, and if one or two of those games gets rained out, well, that sours the whole thing, man. So it's Toronto's safe.
I looked into that, and I think the $1 sale, because I'm like, wow, they could turn a hefty profit, but they can't just go and sell it having got it for $1. I think it's essentially a lease. I don't know. I'm not a real estate developer, but speaking of real estate, you need to go talk to the property brothers, Atkins and Shapiro, and tell them your idea. Let's blow this wall out and get some windows in here. That's their next renovation.
Shapiro's mentioned that a couple of times, but more as I think a bit of a pie in the sky idea. If you could get some light in there. I mean, I would love to have a glass roof, because the moment you get some light and some actual air into that stadium, fantastic. It's great. Yeah. But otherwise, you feel like you're playing in a basement, a dry basement. It's okay. But it does sound like there's going to be, and I'm interested about this too, Dan, because it sounds like it might be something a little smaller. I'm not sure. But Shapiro a couple of times has hinted that there's going to be one more phase to renovations. It sounds like it's something that they've kind of added along the way. And listen, you can bash a lot of things the Blue Jays have done over the last 5-10 years. You sure can. I sure have. Mm-hmm. But the renovations and all this stuff, while some of it's not for me, maybe. If I go to a game, I want to sit in the seat and watch the game. But that's okay. It doesn't all need to be for me. People seem to love it. Like, they seem to have nailed a lot of this with the renos. I hope the next phase of renovations, and he said this, there's another thing he's hinted at, that it could have an element where they kind of honor the history of this team a bit more. Okay. Because, my God, they need to. Yeah. Statues are, I think, a complicated conversation because I don't know if they own the land, like the actual land outside the stadium walls. But this team needs to better honor its history and its players and keep people invested in the teams beyond this year. So I hope that's part of it, but there's something else coming. I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty interested to see.
Okay, well, that's all they have to fall back on now is, hey, we got more renovations coming. Okay, so someone, if this continues, is going to get fired. Hitting coach, the manager. What is going to happen, and what can they do to fix this? Is there one thing for them to prevent someone from getting fired?
That's the really tough one for me right now, Dan, because you don't make a front office change, I don't think, right after they landed Vladdy for $500 million. Yeah. That buys you a bit of job security. I also do not know what else John Schneider's supposed to do with this lineup. Yeah, you can nitpick a lot of bullpen decisions like any manager, but I really don't know what he's supposed to do with this lineup. Which move he is supposed to make, who he can drag down that lineup, who he can jack up it. I don't know where that happens. And frankly, I've seen Schneider's development as a manager over these last few years. He's more comfortable. He is more, I think, emboldened in his decisions now. And you want to see that continue to grow, because I'm a believer that managers and coaches can develop and grow. They're not just the guy they are when they get the job, but this is Major League Baseball. And when you disappoint, and more importantly, when you continue to disappoint, things happen. And we know that firings or moves are not always the most just things in the world. We see it, I feel, even more in the NHL a lot lately. Lots of coaching moves, and sometimes it's fair, sometimes it's the old shake-up move. You can see that on coaching staffs as well, bench coaches, hitting coaches, but I don't think they're going to wipe the hitting staff. I really think there's still going to be some patience. And I've been asked by a lot of folks lately, will there be a firing? Will a move come soon? I don't think so. It's this group seems pretty tied together. And there's still a lot of belief internally. I'm not saying that people listening to this externally need to share that. That's all right. But internally, they're still believing this is going to turn around once this lineup clicks. And I know people hearing that.
Yeah, but that's a long waiting process.
Dude, it's been years. So people hearing that are thinking, man, again? But I really don't think they're on that quick trigger right now. I don't.
But we just have to avoid, and I say we because, yes, I live and die with the Toronto Blue Jays. You have to avoid stretches like this. This is the one thing you have to avoid is a stretch in which you win one game out of 9. You avoid those, you can be in the mix. You have a stretch like this.
Yeah.
It could be the end of your season this early.
It could, because, Dan, I don't know if they have the offense to have a stretch like this in the other direction.
Right.
Now, if you're the Yankees and you go 1-8 over a stretch, I'm thinking, okay, that's strange, but you're probably about to score 100 runs in the next 10 days. The Blue Jays right now, and we've talked about this over the last few weeks, Dan, I think they just need to get to the trade deadline close. Then they will go big. I really believe they will if they can get there kind of involved in the wild card race. But if you're going to go on a losing streak, is this Blue Jays team capable of reeling off 8 or 9 in a row? Maybe, but they'd have to play pretty perfect baseball because a lot of those would have to be 4-3, 3-1 wins. Those are harder to stack up versus if you're an offense that's just playing hot. And we've seen that with the Blue Jays in the past. I always, and God, I think I will forever go back to that 2021 team. When Marcus Semien was here, Vladdy was playing like a near MVP, Teo, Lourdes. That was an incredible lineup. Yeah. The best we're going to see for a long time. One of the best we've seen ever in Toronto. They could just get hot for a week and change their season. We saw it with the 15 and 16 teams, especially down those stretch runs. They could just get hot as an offense. And it didn't matter if the starter gave up 8 runs. Screw it. They were going to score 9. I don't see that with this team right now. It's not there right now. So you've got to avoid, I think you're dead on, Dan, you got to avoid these stretches because they will sink you. And even in an AL that's not exactly scary right now, you can't get behind because I think the Blue Jays to come back are going to have to be more of a win 2, lose 1, win 3, lose 2, kind of climb slowly up.
The AL East is scary because I saw it with my own eyes when Aaron Judge this past weekend was standing on first next to Vladdy Guerrero, and Vladdy Guerrero looked like a child. And I said, that right there is the Blue Jays against the Yankees. And that's how I see it. And that's probably how the Yankees see it. They're like, we are Goliath. You are David. Good luck with that.
He's scary, man.
I'm like
when
this.
I've gone up to interview him, like there are players, taller than me, wider, but I'm rarely completely towered over in every direction by a guy. I'm 6'2" or 3, maybe a pound or 2 more than Vladdy, let's call it loosely. But when I go up to interview Aaron Judge, it's the one time where I'm looking up thinking, oh my God, how does this guy play baseball? He looks even taller, even bigger than he appears on a screen. He is such an incredible athlete. And I can't say enough good things about Aaron Judge, man. I know Blue Jays fans don't want to hear those, but there may not be a better fit between team and player in Major League Baseball than Judge and the Yankees. Just as Mr. Yankee, the captain, and how he's playing right now, man. He's still hitting around 400 with that power. It's absolutely ridiculous what he is doing. And I would love to see another 400 chase. And I really would. It's been a long time. That old John Olerud season is one of my favorite stories, reading back when he chased 400 deep into the season, because I loved John Olerud growing up. And if Judge could do that, that would be fun. And if he were to do that, he would somehow get 31 votes for MVP, man. That would be unanimous.
We need Mythbusters. I wish they were still around because I would like to know the equivalent of Aaron Judge when he's holding a bat, what the weight of that bat is to him, the product or instrument we would have to hold to have the equivalent. And I think it would be like this pen in my hands. I'm like,
I was going to say
that is the equivalent of what that bat weighs to him. Okay, well, I'm glad we could talk about Aaron Judge and the Yankees because, that's what's on top of the mountaintop, and the Blue Jays are right now. They haven't even reached the base camp.
That's about right, man. This looked like a good month, too. And that's the tough part for the Blue Jays. Before losing 8 out of 9, we were talking about a team that was a few games over 500.
Yes.
And
they were in first. Remember, they were in first.
They were. We'll always have that. But coming into, this month, I said a few different times, if they can get out of April 500, cool. That's fine. Because this is a very tough schedule. And granted, that's not something the Yankees ever say. You never hear the Dodgers saying, oh, it's a tough schedule. That's something you say when you're closer to the bottom. But now it looks like they're going to be chasing it. And it's a tough spot to put yourselves in. There's a lot of season left. But that leaves time for things to go right, also go wrong. You need to give yourself some breathing room. And man, oh man, it's got to happen soon. Because once the calendar says May, Dan, it's not early anymore. I never believe it's early, but I'll let people have a month. Once it says May, the season's rolling, you got to get going.
True. Facts, my friend. Thanks, Keegan.
You got it, Dan.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.